Good morning. Today is the 24th of April 2024 and I'm going to go through my trading levels for today. Before we start, as always, we will take a look at the news. We had an 8:30 data drop and we saw initially a positive reaction and then we saw a sell-off. There's no other news apart from oil news at 10:30 to be wary of. Okay, so let's go through some levels right now. Got some decent levels today. We've broken, let's start off with the daily because it's quite important to start from the higher time frame to work back. And let's open up my pen. We can see that we had this sell-off from the all-time highs and we put in a bit of a reversal, although I'm not too convinced how much of a reversal we're going to see, because what I'm seeing right now is so we pull back down here and we're seeing a bit of a pullback, but the volume is below average and it's declining volume. So you would expect to see, if we're going to see a reversal, you expect to see a larger ending volume candle and then some larger volumes and increasing volume as we're pulling back to show that there's strength in the buyers. But to me, with declining volume, we'll see what today brings, and increasing price, this looks like it's just a pullback. Where can it pull back to? I've drawn the fibs on, as you can see there, from the all-time high down to Thursday's low, and we've got the moving average, we've got the 50 moving average, we've got this weekly trend line, if I go back, which goes back 24 years, and potentially we could pull back to that area as well. We've also got some. We've got the crossing of the 8 and the 20 through the 50 as well. So I think a prime area for it to pull back to. We could see it pull back to the 50% on the fibs. We've got fibs from there to there, but we've got the 618 in that region as well. So potentially we can watch for a bit of a pullback into this area, and that's around 510 to 515. That's on the SPY. The reason I got the SPY because we can see the weekly trend line, the 24. We don't have that on the ES, but we can see something similar. If you look there, it's even more defining the pullback. So we got this move down, and then we've got the pullback. But look, we've got decline in volume as well. Bit of a better reversal candle we saw on SPYs. SPY was kind of a solid candle. We got a bit of a bottoming tail, and again, if we draw the fibs on here, all-time high down to Thursday's low, the 50% is right on that 20, so potentially that's a rejection point, or we got the 50% on the 50, and look where that 618, I'm in the 618 line, and look where this 618 line happens to be. We've got this area of confluence, which was this area here where we couldn't, we sat there consolidating for a week, and then we got bottoms of candles, tops of pivots there. So potentially we could watch it pull back up into this area, and we can look for a rejection. Today I'm going to go with the hourly trend, and what I'm really looking for is a break and retest. Quite like the pullback. If we can pull back to the trend line or the 200, I'll be looking for a higher low entry as it breaks back out. Or if we push up and we break through the pre-market high, I'll be waiting for a pullback onto the pre-market high at 51.28 area for the long. And they're my two plays I'm really watching for and looking for a long off of this trend line. You can see it's set up from there. These are the two pivots I connected it with. Kind of had a false breakdown and pull back, and then we came back and we trailed along this trend line all day yesterday. We pulled back into it at 9:30 open yesterday, and then we've yet to come back to retest it. So I quite like the retest down here on the trend line, maybe as low as 50.90, but 5100 is a round psychological number as well. And we've got the point of control here, this big line. So let's draw in the box, which I like to do over the two highest or three highest. So we kind of got this area as a potential bounce area as well, because we've got the point of control coming into that area. So quite a few reasons why we may see it pull back into this area for a bounce. And then obviously we've got the 50% line, which we just talked about, and then we've got the 618 line. So these are potential targets if we're going long. If we sell off and break the trend line, then we've got this area of confluence, bottoms of candles, tops of candles, and that's around 50.90. So that's kind of a bounce area, but we kind of just discussed that. So that's another reason why I quite like this area if we pull back into this area, because not only have we got this point of control running right through it, we've got an area of confluence as well. So if we come back to there, I'll be looking for a long. Short wise, next bounce actually, I quite like this area here. So we've got an area of confluence, kind of hesitated, pulled back. So if we come back down into 50-50 area, I'll be looking for a bounce, and then potentially down here I'll be watching for a bounce at 55,000 to 5,010, which is the areas marked up on here. And rejection wise, I quite like the rejection up here on the 618 area, and you can see point of control as I zoom out, areas of volume. So I do quite like this area for rejection, which I'm going to mark up now. Also quite like this area here, 51.60 through to 51.75. So it's kind of a bigger area. I'll probably go with the most recent pivot, so 51.60 for rejection. Okay, that's it really. So on to SPY next. That's the daily, we talked about that earlier. So on the SPY, looking at the hourly, we've got the 200 coming down, so kind of watch this area for rejection. So it's 50% as well on the fibs coming from the all-time highs area. So I do quite like a rejection at 509 to 510. I would say it's a bit higher risk because we're quite close to it, but the better rejection area is 511 to 512, this area here, and purely because there's more areas of confluence. We had a bit of area, we had an area here where we came through, pulled back, pushed down, bottoms of candles, tops of candles, bottoms, bottoms, bottoms. Oh, I'm a bit out on those ones. Bottoms, 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 and then we've got these a little bit higher over here as well. And also, as we talked about, this yellow line is the weekly trend line, which goes back 24 years. So kind of looking for a rejection up in this area. And as you know, we talked about the volume on the daily as well. So we've got some decline in volume coming down as well, which is what you expect to see while we're pulling back. So levels are 512 for rejection, watch for 512 to 514. Do quite like this area up here, the 514 area for rejection. Bounce wise, you can clearly see at this level here, bottoms, tops, tops, pivots, bottom. So kind of like 499 to 500 for a bounce, and 500 is a psychological number as well. And that's that really. I'll be watching mainly ES. So let's look at NQ next. NQ is a little bit clearer. We've broken out from this downward hourly downtrend. We put in this lovely kind of reversal. You can see coming in on volume as well, and like a head and shoulders. There's no defined neckline, but we can see the trend clearly breaking. Move, where is it, down here? So we had to, if we connect that up, you can see the trend came in, broke, came back, retested, and then broke out. So we could technically put in our trend lines as well, which I'll probably do later, but we can probably put a trend line here in, we've already seen it on the ES, it's very similar, that trend line there. We can watch that for a break, and if it breaks down through that trend line, we can look for shorts. And let's go to daily and see what the volume was like. So again, like ES, although we did have kind of a lot of selling there, highest amount of selling we've had this year, October's last time, but we are putting in lower volume as we're pulling back as well. And again, we've got this area confluence around here as well on the daily, 18,000, which is a psychological number. So we can watch 18,000 for rejection on the daily. So let's go into hourly, get some levels. Okay, so break and retest a pre-market high, and that'll have to break over this 200 moving average, come back and retest. So I do quite like that area. Let's just get rid of that alert. I'm going to draw that in there. We've got a area of confidence about bottoms and tops of candle of pivots as well. Let's get rid of that one. Just tidy this up a bit. That's better. So break and retest of 17,732. I kind of like the rejection up here. You can use the more recent pivots, or you can use where there's the most amount of touches. So probably around here. Kind of like you can use it as a zone as well. So even I've got 1883, but it's kind of this entire area. So so there's more touches of that zone than there is on the line. So kind of watching that area for rejection. So a reject at 18,100 really is just, let's just say 100 because it's a round number, but we've got that entire $20 area, 1880 to 18,100. You could watch here. It's a bit higher risk. There's not as many unless we go back to the beginning of last year. We've got a few more touches of that area. Bounce wise, quite like this area. It's a bit of an area of confluence. So that's 17,300 for a bounce, and we could probably watch. Not a big fan. Yesterday's low maybe for a bounce as well. But I quite like the break and retest and the break up above this 200 moving average, and then with a target. We can specify two targets really. That pivot there, 17,955 to 1800, and then we can watch for a rejection around that area. Qs, exactly the same. Let's just draw the trend line in. So if you look at that trend line, we're drawing the most recent pivots together, kind of coming back into it. So it's looking like a buy pretty soon. Probably the same as NASDAQ if you were to draw trend line in, not too far off. So I quite like the break and retest pre-market high, or try and find an entry on this pullback off this trend line. We can watch a bounce around this area as well at 423.20, 428.50 for a break and retest, and then pre-market low, yesterday's high, we can watch for a bounce. That means I have to break through this trend line slightly, but then the lines don't take it as a line, it's a zone. So we can, it could be anywhere from there down to here, so it kind of all fits in. So basically wait for confirmation and look for a reversal, and then rejection wise, quite like 432.60 for a reject. SPX, so we've got 50-100 coming into play today. Let's just make that a bit, or it may come into play today. So we can watch for rejects between here and maybe up to the point of control. See, I quite like this point of control. Got this point of control here, and you can see it's an area of confluence as well, and we kind of sat around there. So come back up and retest this area. 5100 to 5120 is a rejection area, and if we get down to 5,000 again, we can watch for a bounce. They're the only two levels I'm really watching. Gold, I've not looked at it today. Okay, so we've got this area here. We talked about this yesterday. Here we go. If anyone knows the reason why this, I always put my levels in every day. Same charts, same workspace. I'll hit save again as well. But the levels are never there the next day. They always vanish. It's really annoying. So I have to keep putting them in. Now, it's great for practicing putting levels in, but I don't want to keep doing it. I'd like to revert back. Got this level here as well. So if anyone knows the reason for that, let me know. Broken the downward trend. If we were to pull back up, kind of like that area as well. And what I'm looking for when I put levels in, I'm looking for the most amount of touches at pivots. I don't always care about the tops of candles. I'm kind of looking for the bodies as well. So I count the bodies as a touch, So like you can see, they've got a tail there, we've got a body there, tail, lots of bodies there. So I kind of like the rejection at 23.76 to 23.80. Notice the curving of the 200 moving average. We haven't broken over the 50 yet, so until we break the 50, the bears are still in control. So we need to get above it, break over pre-market, come back, we can watch for a retest at 23.43. Or if we break down, we can look for the break below yesterday's low and pre-market low. So break and retest of this area as well, and that's around 23.22 area. They're the only two levels to watch for really. Target wise, you can use those pivots, and you can use this area of confluence as well. Again, I'm looking at bottoms of candles and tops of candles. Not much volume in this area, so it's a bit of a void until we get down back into this area. So we could see it pull back quite a lot. Crude oil. Again, all my levels. Oh no, so some levels are still there. Okay, so I do still quite like this area. So yeah, I would have initially put it about there. And I suppose it's, yeah, there you go. I was only looking at that area, and it kind of lines up with what we've seen recently in recent days. So we've got our bounce area 81. Our reject area is quite clear. Oh, okay, even clearer now. Point of control is coming up, that kind of marking the area as button mark. So we can watch this area for a rejection, 84.50 to 84.62. Well, all the way through to 85 really. So that's it. We can watch for a break and retest of pre-market high, yesterday's high, and then we got our first target as we get into this area. Big volume, so be a bit wary if we do get up here and be looking to get out, watch the order flow, or watch the level 2 to see if we've got any big orders, and watch for it trying to reverse. You can see the last time we got up to that area, we had a big reaction. There's no reason why we won't do it again, but it was a big reaction up, and we got a big reaction down. That's it really. RTY. So this is the E-mini Russell's 2000 index. So we've broken the trend line. We can draw in another trend line, connecting these. You can probably fine tune it, but that's just using the two prominent. And we're coming right into that area as well, so we can look for a bounce around this area. Kind of got, see, levels are here from yesterday, so I'm not quite sure why some of them do stay safe, some of them don't. So 1977 for a bounce, good number that. That's the year I was born. So let's watch that area for a bounce. You can see we've got area of confluence, kind of got this little mini head and inverse head and shoulders, which obviously didn't play out, but we've got pivots, tops of candles, bottoms of candles, a pivot as well. So we can watch this area for a bounce. 2000 psychological number, round number. We can watch that area as well for a bounce. Kind of where we are now, and off of the trend line as well. And then a break and retest of. I prefer the yesterday's high, because if you do a break and retest of pre-market high, you're going into resistance, potential resistance. But kind of watch that area for the breakout, and that's it. And that level is around 2020. Okay, YM, this is the Dow Jones. Okay, see, some of my levels are still there. Maybe that's the idea. I've got to click save every time. Shouldn't have to. I'm sure they sync globally. I've got global turned on. New drawings will sync globally. New drawing syncing layout. I think that's if you've got multiple windows. Okay, so got the rejection point at 38,900, 38,945, 39,000 I meant, to 38,945. Let's look at more local. Yeah, the break and retest of pre-market high will be the break and retest also over this pivot. So that's why I like the break and retest rather than the breakout, because you want to see it break over that area, come back, retest, because obviously we had a big reaction last time we were in these areas, and then hopefully see it push up. You can use 39,000 as your first number, area, small area of confluence, not much volume, and then we've got this pivot here, which is around 39,333 for a possible rejection. Let's look at Bitcoin just to end this. We've got 5 minutes before market opens. Okay, so kind of did what I was saying it's going to do. It pulled back, pushed back up into this region, into the 50 moving average, and rejected it. You can see it's quite clearly rejected. Note the low volume as well on this area at the top, this rejection. The volume was greater down here. We'll see, we basically, if we break down below yesterday's low, we could see the next leg down. We are putting in a lower low, lower high, a lower low, potentially lower low, lower high. Let's see where we go. If we break above the 50, then the bulls are back in control and we could be retesting the highs again. Let's see if any movement since we last looked on the ES, and then it's done. Okay, so I still quite like it coming back down into this trend line. I know Nasdaq was getting closer to the trend line, or was it Q's? Right on it, but that's a tighter trend line. I prefer playing ES, but I may watch NQ today. So let's just go over 5100 bounce. It's right where this point of control is, lots of volume. So we can watch for a bounce at 5100. Did I write that down in my trade calendar? No, I didn't. 5100 bounce. This is before we had news, and then we got the 5128 break and retest off the hourly trend. This is what we talked about there, break and retest of the hourly. So if I'm long from the bottom, that could potentially act as an add location, or take it as a second trade. 5160 reject, 5160, that we talked about that one, so we can watch that area there for a reject off of this pivot. And then 5090 bounce, that's down here. Is that 5090 and 5010? 5010, that's a bounce down here, and 5090. See, I've not mentioned that one, but we can watch 5053 as well. 51. That's it really, and then obviously I'm watching the 50% on the fibs on the daily as well. So keep an eye on that, and that's at 5150 area. 5148 is 50%. Okay, that's it. This is TradeViz, what I'm using. I use it as my journal, logs all my trades. I also do my day notes, and it's great because I can just take a screenshot. I do this every single day. Take a screenshot, and then I put it into here. So when I review my trades the next day, I can see how the day started. I sometimes put the order flow screenshot in as well, and then I just update this. So kind of like my online journal. Let's click save, and it puts it in the notes. If you haven't got TradeViz, then there's a code in the description below. Can't remember what you get. I think it's 30% off, but it's worth it, worth every penny. And okay, that's it. Up next will be the live stream of the order flow, and I'll show you what that looks a bit like. So my mic, I don't have my mic on for the order flow, so that's why there's no talking then. But that's the order flow. I should add a new one actually. Left screen, here we go. So this is the order flow, and I use this every day. You've got the volume in the middle. This tells me exactly where there's volume trade, a bit like Bookmap, but I like to see it as a list. It tells you how many trades. The asterisk means that's when it's ultra high volume. And then these numbers in the brackets tells you how many ticks away from the current price it is. So you can see 51.20, we're about 20 ticks away. But what really watches the ultra large orders, so 51.35, and then 6,000. That's a long way away. And then but I generally ignore the ones which are further away and just looking for the most recent ones. And you can see the red lines on the chart as well. These red lines visually show you what this is showing you. So you can see 51.35, large order. You see it's extra thick, denoted by the star there. 640 orders. Limit orders are sitting there right now. So, and then the order flow. You got your 10 range order flow. You got the 5-minute order flow. Footprints I meant. And you got the cumulative delta. And I watch this all the time. So note, we have price standing off, and then we've got I would say a sideways cumulative delta, and then we've got this aggressive buying on the delta, which probably means that when we open, it's going to be a bit of a buy. Okay, right. Thank you for watching. I'm going to flick over to the live order flow next, so stay tuned in.